Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson, and I am a certified yoga teacher at the advanced 500-hour level. I'm also an ordained minister, a kirtan artist, a musician, amongst other things. Today, I wanted to share a passage from Course in Miracles, which is one of my favorite scriptures. But before I do that, I do want to thank all of my patrons on Patreon. They are the community that make these talks possible. So without their support, these talks would not be available on YouTube as they are. So if you'd like to join that community, please check out the links below, and let's get into our talk. Okay, so I want to read directly from the course. This is the introduction to chapter 10, the idols of sickness. Okay, so nothing beyond yourself can make you fearful or loving because nothing is beyond you. So I find this extremely interesting because this is exactly what the manifestation community claims. And so again, this is where manifestation and spirituality, at least as it is according to Course in Miracles, cross over. That they both are basically in agreement that you are ultimately, not on an egoic level, not on a separate individual level, but you are ultimately responsible for everything that you experience. Now, some people might find this triggering or angering because they might be experiencing things that they don't like, and they would say, well, there's no way I would choose this. You know, honestly, I could say the same. I think anybody can. I think our experience here is that we are victims of circumstance or victims of other people, whatever it is. We tend to see ourselves as not the cause of what we're experiencing. But this is why spiritual texts like A Course in Miracles are so fascinating and enlightening. And this is what's so interesting about the teachings of manifestation, is they're basically saying, actually, you're much more powerful than you like to believe. And what they are trying to do is get us to accept that, which is I want to say a bitter pill, but it can be a difficult pill. Neville Goddard, who was really one of the early people who taught about manifestation, or what's called law of assumption, which is a type of manifestation, he would talk about the pearl of great price, that buying this belief system, and until you really believe it, your manifestations will seem random and haphazard and all of these kinds of things. So anyway, nothing beyond yourself can make you fearful or loving. Nothing beyond yourself. Okay, really hard to accept that, right? Because it just so much feels like there's a world out there, and that's why I'm afraid, because of the world. Or I feel loving because of this person, right? I mean, come on, be honest, all right? So this is saying that's not ultimately true, okay? Because nothing is beyond you. Time and eternity are both in your mind and will conflict until you perceive time solely as a means to regain eternity. You cannot do this as long as you believe that anything happening to you is caused by factors outside yourself, right? You cannot do this as long as you believe that anything happening to you is caused by factors outside yourself. So really interesting, because again, this is exactly what the manifestation community says. You are at cause for everything, okay? It's not saying that you're consciously choosing everything, but that on some level, a part of you is wanting whatever it is that you're experiencing. So this is where diving into the unconscious and unraveling that and really becoming aware of that can help us in terms of being more in control of what we are consciously creating. You must learn that time is solely at your disposal and that nothing in the world can take this responsibility from you. You can violate God's laws in your imagination, but you cannot escape from them. They were established for your protection and are as inviolate as your safety. God created nothing beside you, and nothing beside you exists, for you are a part of him. So there's nothing outside of self, outside of you. What except him can exist? Nothing beyond him can happen because nothing except him is real. Your creations add to him as you do, but nothing is added that is different because everything has always been. What can upset you except the ephemeral? And how can the ephemeral be real if you are God's only creation and he created you eternal? So the ephemeral is the temporary, the eternal is eternal, it's beyond time. Your holy mind establishes everything that happens to you. Again, really hard to accept, right? Your holy mind establishes everything that happens to you. Every response you make to everything you perceive is up to you because your mind determines your perception of it. And this is something that I've emphasized in the past, perception. For me, the techniques of yoga and of scriptural study, all this stuff, is to change our perception. We as human beings like to believe that we just perceive things as they are. I believe science has basically agreed that there's a 0% chance of that. We don't see things as they are. Human beings do not see things as they are. So it is really difficult to get out of that mindset because we all pretty much believe that, and we have a hard time believing that our judgments and our perceptions are inaccurate. But what yoga and scriptures like A Course in Miracles try and teach us is that's not true. Perception is malleable. You can change your perception. You can alter it. It's malleable, okay? God does not change his mind about you, for he is not uncertain of himself. And what he knows can be known, because he does not know it only for himself. He created you for himself, but he gave you the power to create for yourself so you would be like him. That is why your mind is holy. Can anything exceed the love of God? Can anything then exceed your will? Nothing can reach you from beyond it, because being in God, you encompass everything. Believe this, and you will realize how much is up to you. When anything threatens your peace of mind, ask yourself, has God changed his mind about me? Then accept his decision, for it is indeed changeless, and refuse to change your mind about yourself. God will never decide against you, or he would be deciding against himself. Okay, so again, I find this passage very, very comforting. When anything threatens your peace of mind, ask yourself, has God changed his mind about me? Now, it's very important that one of the key teachings of A Course in Miracles is that the Son of God is sinless, and you are the Son of God. You are God's child. And it seems to us like we sin. It seems to us like we're not enough. And what the Course teaches is fundamentally, because that guilt and shame is so deep, we project it on others. So we see others as not enough, but it's really ourselves that we're ultimately judging. And as you can tell from what it says in there, there's really no other. There's really just self, which again, this is what manifestation teaches as well. I understand these are some pretty confusing concepts, but they're really not new to A Course in Miracles. They are concepts that have been around in spirituality in one form or another for thousands of years. So again, I share this passage with you today because it's one that I turn to for comfort when I'm feeling threatened by something in my reality. I can ask myself, has God changed his mind about me? And I know that what God creates is eternal, and God is eternal, and God's mind doesn't change. It's also eternal. So from the Course's perspective, we can psych ourselves out, and we can believe that we are sinners or that we live in a world full of sin, a scary world, a world where we need to defend ourselves and be frightened. And I find that this passage and others like it, which I will share in future talks, are ones that I can turn to that allow me to relax and be present with my experience. Again, a very big key teaching in A Course in Miracles is judgment, that we cannot judge. It's not even so much that you should not judge, it's that you are actually really incapable of sound judgment. And so therefore you should not even try. So again, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Maybe play around with this passage again. It's chapter 10, the introduction to chapter 10, and see if that is helpful for you. Again, the things I share here are usually practices in the form of, you could say, thought experiments, things that you can do throughout your day when you find yourself triggered or threatened or upset for some reason. You can pull out this passage and mull it over, and perhaps it'll bring you some peace. All right, everyone. I hope that was helpful. I'd love to hear from you. If you're on YouTube, you can help me by liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing. And of course, if you'd like to help a little more, please check out the link to the Patreon page, and you can become a patron there. Until next time, namaste, and have a beautiful, beautiful day.